If you've had a bad day or a bad week, you probably want to have one day, even just one, where you feel confident, strong, and ready for anything. And if you've ever lacked confidence in how you see yourself, you know, and I know, there can be a lot of angst wrapped up in that. But you also know that your thoughts are one thing you can change right now. So let's have a look at how you can think differently about yourself today with these 15 affirmations that will lead to you feeling positive about you, the whole you, including your body. I've written each of these around key ideas that have and continue to encourage, uplift, and support me in my life. My perspective is shaped by being a personal stylist since 2017, but also the fact that I didn't enjoy the shape of my body for the longest time, until about my late 20s. I became a stylist a few years after working out how to show myself in my best light, because I wanted to share what I've learned. So I'm going to share a little about why and how each of these affirmations made it into this video. I'll share a couple of snippets and some of my clients' stories as well. We'll talk about valuing ourselves, how we do that, and what we think about our bodies. I've never done a video like this, so I look forward to hearing from you in the comments, and I'm sure others would love to read any other affirmations that have inspired and lifted you up in your journey. And right at the end, I'll tell you a little about my online program in case that's of interest to you. Number 1, self-appreciation. I acknowledge and celebrate all my accomplishments in every area of my life, both big and small. Each one has contributed to who I am and to my success. Have you ever noticed that there are some particular issues that come up which have the power to cloud our view? Someone makes a remark about us and it stings. It becomes larger than life. And for a while, it's all we can think about. And while those words swim around in our heads, we lose that full perspective on ourselves because we're so focused on what they said. When I was starting out in my professional life, still learning the ropes, one of my assigned mentors made an offhanded comment, you're not ambitious. And it wasn't meant as a compliment. I think it was meant to sting, which it did. I thought about it from every angle, why she said that, what it meant for how I presented myself, and what were the implications for my future work with her. I was shocked that she'd misunderstood me so badly, or perhaps hadn't. I felt really awful about myself as a professional for a while. And you might have had a comment like this, and you know how a negative comment can be quite derailing. In fact, when you've raised your head and you're more public and visible, this is a daily occupational hazard. And it's empowering to bring your mind back to a place of self-appreciation. It's saying, I run this ship. This is my mental space, and I'm not going to be hijacked. I'm taking it back. This affirmation helps us do that. It reminds us to focus on who we are, who we're becoming, and to remember there are so many things that we've done which have value if we will just stop to look at them. Positive self-talk. I speak to myself with kindness and encouragement, nurturing a mindset of self-compassion and confidence in my strengths, my abilities, and my personality. The way I see self-love and my understanding of what that means is very much about what we tell ourselves. I am fascinated by the power of words, which can be used for both good and evil. Through reading about positive psychology and reflecting in my own life, I've noticed that the narrative running through our mind has a direct impact on how we feel about ourselves. Occasionally, I'll notice this with my clients as well, that they can use quite harsh terms to describe themselves. They would never let a friend describe them in that way, whether it's an aspect of their personality or their body. This affirmation reminds us to speak in a loving way to ourselves. It affirms the value of the language we use to describe ourselves and how that language shapes our mindset and shapes our view. Celebrating uniqueness. I celebrate my unique features and quirks, celebrating that I am one of a kind and there is no one like me. One of the areas that can affect us with regard to valuing our whole self is specifically the fact that we are all different. In the face of a somewhat narrow, let's face it, concept of beauty, there will always be people who feel that they fall outside of that concept. Have you ever noticed just how narrow that concept is? We're all aware of how the prettiest girl in class seemed to get the most positive attention and how we wanted to be like her, but there was only one of her. I've been inspired by realizing that school as an environment teaches us or taught us to compare ourselves to others, mainly through grades, assignments, and exams with pass marks. The possibility of failure and the possibility of excellence were all built into that experience. And knowing where you are on the scale is a really key part of succeeding at school. So we needed to think like that. But we've overgeneralized and perhaps been a bit harsh on ourselves by comparing ourselves too much on aspects that actually we need to value. This affirmation helps us get that balance back by celebrating our uniqueness. It's a reminder that once you get out into the real world, you realize the myriad ways that people are different, and actually tapping into that difference is now key to our success. Now that we're grown-ups, celebrating our uniqueness is our right and our responsibility. By the way, this channel is about being seen in your best light in a corporate environment. I want you to enjoy a wardrobe and a personal image that support you to bring your authority and your influence to the world. So if that sounds good, hit subscribe below the video. 4 and 5 come as a set. Firstly, it's about embracing failure as growth. I embrace failure as an opportunity to learn and grow, recognizing that increasing my rate of failure increases my rate of success. And then it's about embracing imperfections. I accept myself fully, including my imperfections. So these two are a set because they are inspired by watching and learning from people who've taken risks and succeeded. Often there comes a point in our careers where we need to balance risk and reward, deciding whether to say yes to an opportunity or to stay safe and somewhat comfortable. And I'm certainly not saying that all risks are good. I have taken risks that I later learned were a bad risk to take, but you know the situation that I'm talking about. It's that balance, risk, reward, there's some tension associated with it. Sometimes we take the risk and we experience the failure and we don't know what to do with that. It's uncomfortable, it's unfamiliar, and our minds are used to making sense of success, but what do we do with failure? And we can over-categorize, I think, as a response. We categorize ourselves as failures, our whole self, which just creates a feeling of a big dark hole inside. So it's time to reframe that. As an entrepreneur, I have dealt pretty heavily in risk. The very word entrepreneur means bearer of risk. It wasn't a surprise to me to discover that. I've failed many times, but I'm so inspired by the opportunity to make a bigger impact that the risks and those failures have been worth it. In all of our careers, we know that we don't grow unless we take on the uncomfortable risk of failure. You've probably even realized that if you embrace failure more often, you can succeed even faster. But sometimes we need reminding, and this affirmation reminds us of that. The second one is so closely related. We're often going after perfection and holding onto it so tightly that there is no room to be ourselves. But there is great joy and freedom in embracing the fact that we're human. We are not robots, thankfully. And that's what makes us gloriously wonderful and so much more interesting. I personally feel that perfection is often a weight that is just too great to bear. It's much better to shake it off and to truly live. This affirmation encourages us to let go of perfection. Embracing authenticity. I embrace my authentic self, trusting in my intuition and staying true to my values, knowing that authenticity is the cornerstone of genuine connection. Have you noticed that you may feel the need for self-love because you're also feeling somewhat alone in your journey? So this affirmation is a call to courage. When we have the courage to connect with who we really are, we're actually more likely to have meaningful connections with other people. When we're hiding, it's hard for people to know who we really are and hard for them to connect with us because they're thinking, who is this person really? You may not realize that there's actually a surprising connection here with styling, or perhaps you see that connection. While style is very much about our public-facing image, landing gorgeous, easy style is actually much more about connecting with ourselves than most people realize. Yes, it's about our body shape strategy, our ideal colors, but it's also about our style, our taste, our personality, which together shape our style story. It's a true delight to show people how they can share themselves through their style and have their clothes speak for them. And knowing your style synergy type is one of the first places to start. So I'll link a video here which explains it more, and you can find the 5-minute quiz in the description. Fostering supportive relationships. I surround myself with people who uplift and inspire me, fostering supportive relationships that encourage my growth and well-being. Now, if you could put a finger on the negative words in your mind that are behind your most recent down day or your down moment, who was it who said those things? I have been greatly inspired by the Theodore Roosevelt quote that Brené Brown famously shares in Dare to Lead about the power of who we listen to. It stopped me in my tracks when I first heard this quote, and you may already know it. There are often critics on the sideline, especially once you start to raise your profile. But who would you rather listen to? You are the one in the arena. You are the one having the courage to live your life, and you're the one whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood. Hopefully not literally. This quote comes back to mind often, and it reminds me to enjoy, invest in, and build more supportive relationships in my life. This affirmation reinforces the value of fewer snipers, more supporters. Number 8, setting boundaries. I honor my needs and set boundaries to protect my time, energy, and well-being, knowing that self-care is essential for my success and fulfilling my life's purpose. This affirmation is about that partnership between building supportive relationships, but also having a strategy to block out to some degree the situations that will drain you. You may relate to being at the point in your career where your time is one of your most precious resources. I often see my gorgeous clients juggling so many commitments and struggling to get some time to think about themselves. And I honor that to some degree because they are doing what's important to them. But when self-care takes a hit, that's when they're borrowing from their future, and they're likely to pay a price at some point with their physical or mental health, their relationships, or even their work. So this affirmation is a reminder to protect the asset. You're the asset. Number 9, prioritizing self-care. I prioritize self-care as a non-negotiable part of my routine, understanding that investing in my well-being enhances my productivity and happiness. Taking care of ourselves in this way of prioritizing our self-care is magic for restoring energy and focus. You want to make your highest contribution. No one can do that but you. You have something unique to offer. There is no one on the planet with your unique history, your specific experiences, and your unique personality. So you could create a positive edge on your day-to-day by looking forward to a good book to support your mind later this evening, a fun session dancing in the kitchen with some of your favorite music, or that could just be me, or 15 minutes of yoga. Number 10, nurturing self-care for body and mind. I nourish my body and my mind with love and care, putting time aside for myself today to promote my well-being as a whole person. Now, this one might look very similar to the last one, and that's because I found myself self-care has such a strong effect on how I feel each day. I'm quite interested in the science of how our body works, and it surprised me to learn that physical activity has been very well established as being 1.5 times more effective at reducing mild to moderate symptoms of depression, psychological stress, and anxiety than medication or cognitive behavioral therapy. That research is reported in Medical News today. It was established by a study and expansive analysis of existing research. So it's quite a significant finding. It also applies to all forms of exercise. So all forms of exercise produce mental health benefits. Personally, I've really noticed a clear link. I'm most likely to need an emotional pick-me-up if I haven't been active. And I'm most likely to feel fantastic after some kind of physical exercise. So it's worth affirming for ourselves the value of nurturing ourselves in body and mind, and this affirmation does that. Number 11, being aware of the present moment. I cultivate mindfulness and presence in each moment, savoring the beauty of life and finding gratitude for the blessings around me. One of the ways to nurture ourselves is to find our center and to get grounded. I don't mean to add pressure to your day by giving you something else to do. In fact, I really believe in the very opposite. Having more rules about what you should be doing each day can be just a mental cage that you don't need any more of. However, there is something that you can do if you choose to do, and if it's the right time for you, that does help you get out of those mental cages, and that is being more connected to ourselves, which brings down our stress. It's this being in the moment, whatever that looks like for you. The moments for me are walking down the street, creative time cooking. I enjoy food and cooking, exercise, meditating on God, occasionally spending some time with a pencil and a pen drawing. This affirmation supports us to value these moments of presence. Number 12, cultivating resilience. I am resilient in the face of challenges, tapping into my inner adaptability, resourcefulness, and power to overcome obstacles and thrive in any situation. Spending some time with your thoughts is something that not many of us do very often. I'm not a psychologist, but I do have an interest. I studied psychology subjects at university, and I enjoy the occasional pop psychology book. I recently read Resilient by Rick Hanson. I was struck by how many different mental pathways there are for us for building resilience. He has more suggestions than I could use. I want to go back and read that book again. I also developed through reading that book an appreciation for the ways that I am resilient already, which by the way is actually a resilience strategy to recognize your qualities and recognize what you already bring. This affirmation helps us value our resilience. 13, embracing our inner beauty. I recognize that true beauty radiates from within me, and I embrace my inner qualities of kindness, compassion, strength, and love as the essence of my beauty. You are beautiful. You have qualities that endear you to your friends and to your family. You can even be beautiful to a stranger through your kindness, your sense of fun, your thoughtfulness, all of your other qualities. How people feel when they are with you is one of the most powerful aspects of your personality. You've noticed this when you meet someone new. It's their smile, their inner beauty, it's the essence of them that you are most drawn to. This affirmation focuses us on the radiant source of beauty that we all have within us. Number 14, affirming our self-confidence. I exude confidence and self-assurance, knowing that loving and respecting myself teaches others how they should respond to me. When we know our value is more than skin deep, confidence comes a lot more easily, and people see in us that there is someone who knows their worth, and they're much more likely to treat us in a way that is consistent with that. So exuding our confidence, knowing for sure that we love and we respect ourselves, has a really strong ripple effect that lasts for years. This affirmation reminds us that it's not only a pick-me-up to be confident, to take the risk to have self-assurance, but it's also helping others to read us and to know how to interact with us. Number 15, gratitude for my body. I express gratitude for my body, appreciating its resilience, its strength, and its ability to carry me through each day with grace and purpose. When was the last time you thanked your body? Okay, I haven't really done it that much either, but maybe it wouldn't hurt for us to be grateful. This body is the one that schleps you around town, that takes you on trips, that helps you turn up each day and enables you to do what you do. If we have predominantly negative thoughts towards our body, that's surely not helping our self-love. What if we could get into a completely different headspace and be so 100% grateful for our body that we always felt great? This affirmation helps us to get into that different headspace, to take the edge off that negative self-concept so we can have a positive edge on our day. I mentioned I have an online program. This program has been helping women who work in corporate environments to create career and business opportunities because colleagues and clients see them differently and understand the value they bring. To feel confident about their purchases because the reduced stress of having gorgeous style is a breath of fresh air. To save hours getting dressed each month, my clients are able to choose outfits really quickly, and to spend less often on clothes and shop less frequently because they now have clothes that work perfectly. So if that sounds interesting to you, follow the link in the description below, and I look forward to having a conversation about how it could help you. See you again soon.